So far we have the web page that looks like this right now. So our main navigation menu is ready. Let's look at the design right now. If you look at the design, if you closely look at the design, you will see that between every navigation menus, like every list item, there is some kind of a separator that is like a small separator, like a very small thin line. If you very closely look at this thing, you will be able to notice that. So how can we actually make this kind of a line? So first of all, let me zoom in a little bit. So when you zoom in, and you will see that there is a small thin line. It is approximately 1 pixel, and but so how can we actually achieve this? So to achieve this, there are there are different ways of achieving the same thing. What I can do is, first of all, let me measure what is the height of the line. So I will inspect this element. I will go to the ruler, and I am going to measure what is the height of this line. So I see it is approximately, height is approximately 30 pixels. Okay, so this is the height of the separator. So between every list item there is a small separator line which is approximately 30 pixels tall. So let's see how we can do that. If I go to my web page, let me go to my code editor right now. And what I can do is I can go to my list item, because the list item, and I can give a border. So let's see, I can give border right, because I want to specify a border on the right side of every list item, and I will give 1 pixel solid. The border is supposed to be solid, and I want like let's say hash FFFFFF. That means white colored line I want. But when I go here, you see that this line now covers the complete, from top to the complete bottom. But this is not what I want. What I want is a small separator line. And let's say I can choose the color of this line to be the same as this background. So I will use my eyedropper tool, and when I hover over this, you see that this is the background color, which is EEE 6 times E. So I click on it to copy that, go back to your code editor, and instead of FF I will write EEE and I will save this. You go back, and now you see that this is the same color, but this border, it takes from top to the complete bottom. But this is not what I want. What I want is something that is 30 pixels tall and appears somewhere in the middle. So this is something very tricky to do. So let's see how we can achieve that. So let me remove the border, because border is not the solution. What I am going to do is, after the li declaration, CSS declaration, I will copy this, I will go again, and I will write after, li colon after, after, because what I want is, after every list item I want something else. So you have to look into this CSS selector very carefully. It says main navigation, and then list item, and then you have to put a colon, and then you have to write after. And you might be wondering what exactly is after. So after is a pseudo element. A pseudo element is something that does not really exist, but in CSS it gives us the possibility of creating an extra element that does not really exist in the HTML markup. So with using after, I am going to create a pseudo element. So you will see, I mean, right now it might be a little difficult to understand this concept, but trust me, we will keep on using it, and you will become like so much familiar with this. There is no problem. So I go and I write main navigation li colon after, and I will give a content and give it a blank. That means the element that I am going to create, a pseudo element that is going to be created, I want the content of that element to be completely blank. I don't want anything to be written there, so it's just blank element. Give it a property of display. inline block, inline dash block, right? After giving a property of inline block, we see that it is approximately height is 30 pixels. So I give a height of 30 pixels. Let's give it a width of 5 pixels. Let's give it a width of 5 pixels for now. And I'm going to give it a background. So a background color of hash EEE. This is the background color that I am going to use, and I am going to save this. And once I go back to my browser, you will see something. You will see something that is floating just under the list item. Let me change the color so that you can properly see that. Let me change it to red for now. FF0000. Save it. And you will see that there is something like some kind of a small blocks or rectangles that start appearing just under the list items, you see. So this is what this is basically a pseudo element that we created. Okay, that does not exist in HTML, but this is a pseudo element that we created only for the purpose of styling. So what I want is, I want these pseudo elements to be somewhere in the middle over here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to where is my this? I will go here and I will give it a property of position absolute, because I am going to position it like a specific absolute position I am going to give. But every time you are using a position absolute property, you have to always remember that to the parent element, okay, to the parent element you always have to specify position relative. So I will go here and I will call it position relative. Save this. And what I am going to do now is I am going to give it a, since I am going to position this absolutely, so I have to specify what is going to be the top value and what is going to be the right value, something like this. So you see that right now nothing happened, but now I am going to say top 0 and save it. And when you go, you see that all the small rectangles, they now start appearing on the top, you see. Now what I want is, I also want the right property to be 0, because I don't want this element to appear on the left. So as soon as I give a right value of 0, you see that it starts appearing on the right hand side, on the very right of every list item. This is something what I want. But now I don't want the red color, I want the same background color EEE. Save it. Go back and you have something like this appearing here. Not a problem. But I don't want it to be sticking to the top. I want it somewhere in the middle over here. So I have to adjust my top property. I can give the top value of, let's say 15 pixels, something like this. Save it. And you see that now, but I have to give it a top more a little bit. So let's say 20 pixels. Save it. Okay, just a little less. 18 pixels sounds okay. Perfect. Now I have a separator that separates all the list items. But if you look at the design, this separator is not like very thick. We have a very thick separator. So because the width of this separator is too much, what I want is a very thin separator. So in order to add the thin separator, you just reduce the width from 5 pixels to 1 pixel. Save it. And let's look at the design. Now you have a very thin kind of a separator that exists here, right? Okay.